Good morning. The eyes of Vancouver are on Vancouver for Saturday because they're going to pick either a new mayor or the old mayor. And this morning, before I let them at each other, I want to give them a little lecture from my advanced age. I want them to be sharp, short, reasonably polite, allow the other guy to finish when he's near the end of a sentence. If anyone gets totally out of control or too wordy, I shall step in with a chopper. The introductions are simple. There is Mayor Jack Volrich, the incumbent, who is established, said Webster somewhat slightly, who is backed, said Webster somewhat snidely, by the establishment and was kind of damned with faint praise this morning by the Vancouver province. He, of course, is a prime candidate. And then there is Michael Harcourt, who is backed by the NDP, the Vancouver Labour Council, and, if you can believe it, the Vancouver Sun, convinced that this time the forces of decency, honesty, rectitude, and common sense will sweep him into the mayor's chair. And then we have Martin Zlotnick. Martin comes from an organization whose name you may have forgotten. It's called T.E.A.M. And Martin might have been a prime candidate. In my opinion, he may now be more of a spoiler. Then we have the incredible Ingram, who has built some kind of large image for himself, but the proof of the pudding will come on Saturday, because Ingram is just Ingram. That's all Ingram is. Then I've got dear old Frank Helden. Frank is a nuisance candidate, and he'll forgive me for saying that, but if all the ex-Royal Marines in Vancouver vote for Frank, or all the old soldiers vote for Frank, he will have a respectable showing. And we're going to get down to an examination of the responses to my questions and their interjections for no more than 56 minutes and 50 seconds after the break. First to Mayor Volrich. There is a very different element to the whole of the operation of the Mayoralty of Vancouver from here on in, Your Worship. I think you'll agree. You're running on your record, but what you're facing if you run on your record is the imposition in Vancouver of any provincial government things which will largely be out with the control of the city. I'm thinking of PBC, I'm thinking of BC Place, I'm thinking of your incredible switch, which we must still refer to, from the PNE to the downtown stadium. And when you say you run on your record, you are not responsible for any of these places, really, nor can you take credit. So therefore, really, you're starting from scratch along with the others to cope with a whole new basis of running Vancouver with the provincial government's massive intervention.
Yeah, well, that's not correct, of course, Jack. None of these projects within the boundaries of Vancouver can get started or initiated or completed without the full support and approval of the City of Vancouver. I've been in on the initiation of most of these projects, and as far as the province is concerned, we have a very good, positive understanding with the province that all these things that you have referred to, these will come into being with the full support and the approval of the City of Vancouver. So we are very much partners with them. We're not in any kind of confrontation situation with them. No, Jack.
Is it not a practical fact that you have become minions of Bill Bennett and Grace McCarthy in the reshaping of Vancouver, and that you have been powerless?
No. And
that your record has been one of, quote, holding the taxis and little else?
You're absolutely wrong. If I were to say today these things will not proceed and get the council to back me in that position, then, Jack, they wouldn't proceed. And that's a fact of the matter. And, of course, when you say incredible switch on the stadium, you know, that's quite wrong to say that. Because at one time, when we were talking about a stadium alone, Jack Webster, I did favor the PNE. There's just no question about that. I'm on record. Our engineers and other experts told us that the traffic and other problems would be less out of the PNE. But when the three governments then put in a bid for Transpo, and then when we came to talk about BC Place, the decision was then made after Paul Manning's report to the Premier that the province preferred to have the stadium down at False Creek, along with the rest of what we're planning, Transpo and BC Place. I then took the position, please allow me to say this, because you say it was a big, incredible story. I then took the position, all right, if the province is picking up the total cost of this project, I will agree and fully support them in building the stadium at False Creek.
Rapid transit will come to later. Mr. Harcourt, you might accept some of the premise I put to the mayor on the imposition on the city of what may well be excellent plans, but which changes the face of the city in a massive way. Now, you are a declared socialist. You are a man who's made some kind of deal with Davy Barrett, who's been main streeting with you, and I'd like you to give me the details of that deal. Now, how can you, if you become mayor of the city of Vancouver, with a council largely against you and a government highly suspicious of you, be anything in the way of being effective? Now, that's a cold, brutal, but honest question, and you will agree that as a socialist mayor with a social credit government, and you deal with Davy, you can just hope for a change of government in Victoria, or you can't do anything.
Well, first of all, let me tell you the deal, Jack, and this is the first time that I've said this in public. The deal was that I buy him lunch at the Galladora restaurant. And we then went out for a walk along Commercial Drive.
With television coverage?
For a walk along Commercial Drive.
With television coverage?
That was on Hastings Street.
Oh, that was a Hastings Street
It was the
lunch.
Sun photographer on Commercial Drive.
I see.
The second point that you bring up is how can I deal with the provincial government and the federal government? Same way I've dealt all the way along. I don't roll over and play dead when the federal or provincial government come to us with any old scheme. If I don't think that it's in the best interests of the city of Vancouver, I'll oppose it. If, as I, and Marty Zlotnick has too, to his credit, feel that the stadium all the way along should have been located in downtown Vancouver, I'll go and lobby Bill Vander Zalm, Hugh Curtis, Steve Rogers, and at that time, John Fraser, who was the minister responsible for the Conservative government. The reason that it went downtown is because myself and the Downtown Stadium Committee lobbied like heck the federal and provincial governments to put it there, not because Jack Volrich.
Okay.
It went there in spite of Jack Volrich. That's a big difference between the two of us.
You can deal with anyone. You're smooth enough to deal with anyone. There'll be no political backfighting.
But I will tell them what's best for Vancouver, because we know, the people of Vancouver know a heck of a lot better than Victoria or Ottawa what's best for us.
And of course, if you got the NDP in the next time, it would certainly make your job, if you become mayor, much easier.
Well, Jack, I think it's important to realize that I was appointed by the NDP to the Provincial Housing Corporation in 1973, and I was appointed to the UTA by the Social Credit provincial government. Those are issues that I understand.
Housing's an impossible task. We'll come to later.
It's not impossible. It can. You can do something about it.
Low mix, low rental housing is your answer.
No, it's not.
Lift rent controls is your answer.
A mixture of incomes, like we did on the south side of False Creek. Do it on the north side too. We've done it before. We can do it again.
North side of False Creek. Now, I'm going to take a minute now to go to my old friend, the old soldier. Frank.
Hi.
You don't get mad when I call you a nuisance candidate and you're wasting your time and money.
No, because I think you're wrong.
How old are you?
I'm 62, but look at old Shrum, he's 84. And look at Regan, he's 79.
Yeah, no,
I'm only a young boy.
Frank, you've got no experience. You're a telephone worker, and I say that in the kindliest manner. You've run for pop board or school board or something. You're doing this just for a lark, and you're...
No, I'm not. I really think it's time the change came in the city and the people had a people's mayor.
You would be the people's mayor?
I certainly would.
No platform, but you'd be the people's mayor.
No, I've got a platform.
Don't tell me about it just now. Ingram, you and I don't always go on that well, do we?
I think we've had a lot of fun, Jack, but I want to say you will go to an awful lot of ends to win a bottle of scotch, won't you? Giving people the opinion that I don't have a chance of winning this election.
How many votes did you get last time?
I got 4,500 in a 10-day campaign, and most of the reporters said I had a good chance if I got 500. I got 9 times more than they said I would, and it was a very...
How many votes did it take to win the last time?
Jack Volrich got approximately 48,000.
What public office have you ever held before?
I've never held a public office before, but I'm a successful businessman who operates right across this country.
And you're a great self-seeker for publicity. You manage to get all kinds of publicity. Why, I don't know.
Jack
Mainly
Webster,
because you're on some tax
Jack
salary.
Webster, I turn down more programs than I ever go on. Don't tell me that I'm a self-seeker of publicity.
Okay, and you are, of course, much closer to Jack Volrich in your outlook and your philosophy than you are to Mike Harcourt.
I disagree. I am a people person. I am a businessman and I'm a people person. I help the little fellow fight bureaucracy and the government in the business that I do, And I also believe that we have to have a tight control on the public purse to make sure that what we do works. I am a businessman. I'm the only one that sits here that has to make and spend my own money. I'm not working with Indian Bands
right,
affairs, and
okay.
I'm not working with taxpayers' money. I'm working with the dollars that
You would
come
go
in
into
and
City
spend
Hall
it.
if you had any power, and as a mayor, you'd go through trying to pick out savings and all what you regard as a feather bedding at City Hall. Is that right?
I would try and clean up what is going on. I would not reject things like the garbage proposal that was put to City Hall in July that would have saved so much money.
Yes, you're the guy that wants to cause a civic strike.
I do not want to cause a civic strike.
That's right. No, let me get this right. No, I'm not laughing at you. There was a proposal made for the disposal of garbage in Vancouver by private contracting, which would save the city a lot of money and get rid of a lot of employees.
It would not get rid of a lot of employees.
What's the point of it then?
What it would do is it would put them in a different type of payroll system. Instead of making $17,000, they would have made $25,000.
But they wouldn't be in the City Hall employed.
That's right. Their employer would change, and the city of Vancouver would save $1.5 million a year in money. But more important than that, we would stop dumping 1 million gallons a day worth of leachate into the Fraser River, and we'd stop dumping 500 tons a day worth of garbage into Burns Bog, which is going to be full in 3 years, and we would start paying the city for that.
You may be perfectly correct, but you know perfectly well, as a practical
Jack,
man,
don't
if you
tell me
are
that.
a practical man,
10
that
other
if
cities
you-
in the States have done it, and it's working. And
Under
Surrey
Reagan.
did it. Not under Reagan. Reagan hasn't even taken office yet.
You know perfectly well that if you attempt to cut out a unionized section of City of Vancouver, you'd have a strike tomorrow, wouldn't he? Sir,
There would be a very high risk, no question about
wouldn't
that.
he?
It's a union busting tactic, Jack.
It is
and,
not a
let me
union
tell you.
Enough. How much time in this segment? I'll take the break now, and we'll come back up with Martin Zlotnick, Mayor Volrich, to respond to some of this, and we'll go around and we'll have interchange, and we'll try and talk policies. Although actually, this kind of program is best set to give you a feeling for the candidate after the break.
Say the boat people and all.
Martin Zlotnick is the team candidate for mayor. Are you even running a full slate this year, team?
Team's not running a full slate.
Why run a mayor if you're not running a full slate?
Because what we're running, Jack, is we're running good candidates who believe in the ward system.
Didn't you used to be Jack's campaign manager?
No, I was never Jack's campaign manager.
Fundraiser or something?
Never Jack's fundraiser. I was Team's fundraiser in 1976 when Jack was running for mayor for Team.
Do you have a platform that makes sense in 2 or 3 minutes or less?
We have the only platform that makes sense. It's a common sense platform.
Go.
One that means that the city comes first. We believe in planning, that we need proper planning in the city of Vancouver. We have the best candidates for aldermen. We've got Brown, Ford, Merhati, Hammer, Durante, Dronsfield, Keith King, all excellent candidates, all people who believe in putting the city first.
All right, what's your platform?
Our platform is, first of all, we need light rapid transit. We need to stop the Annacis Island crossing until we've got light rapid
Just a
transit.
minute, will you tell me what light rapid transit is and where it would go, please?
Light rapid transit would go firstly along the already established GVRD line from New Westminster to downtown Vancouver. We need a light rapid transit system, a subway system in the downtown core itself.
Subway in the
We
down-
need it hooked up to the new stadium in Falls Creek and the convention center that's
You're
going to
all
go to...
for BC Place?
I'm all for
You're
the
all
stadium.
for Transpo 86?
I'm for Transpo with conditions. And the condition is very straightforward. If we don't have a commitment within 6 months, by July of next year, after I get elected mayor of Vancouver, and we don't get money for transit and for the stadium, then scrap it and let's get on to the orderly development on the north side of Falls Creek.
Money from whom?
The federal government.
Didn't the orderly development of the north side of Falls Creek fall through already?
Yes, it did. When Mike and Jack were on there on council in 1977, they couldn't negotiate a deal with Marathon.
One word on housing. If you have a housing program at all, it's different from anybody else's.
Our housing program is the same old housing program that we've always had, which built Falls Creek, which built Champlain Heights. We believe in writing down city land where we can have cooperatives, we can have mixed income, we can have housing for seniors and housing for handicapped.
Okay, before I come to you, Jack, I want your principal enemy to get at you. Are you social to each other, or have you...
We're civil, yes, have been for many years.
Okay, you're the guy who wants to destroy forthwith Transpo 86, right?
What I've said all along, Jack, is back to the basics. What we need in this city now is housing, a good transit system,
Well,
not a
first of
second-rate
all,
World's Fair.
this is an understandable issue.
Yes.
He's all for
He's
Transpo
for it.
86. He's for Transpo 86.
I am
He's
for
for
Transpo
Transpo 86.
No.
He's not. But
I'm
you're the
against it.
important one.
I'm for the stadium. I'm for a people place down there and housing. The exact plan that we had in place in '75 that the people voted for when we rezoned the north side of Falls Creek.
You mean the old marathon plan that they walked away from?
It's still a valid plan. It was a zoning that we put in place, whoever owned the land, Jack.
So, and
whether
you-
it's the province, whether it's Marathon, CPR, Jack Webster, if he decides to bring his money over from Salt Spring, whatever. Whoever owns the land, whoever owns the land should go ahead with housing for people that work in the downtown.
It's great to say
Right.
that, but there's an important element here. You're the man who a moment ago said to me that you can negotiate. You've been appointed by Social Credit to this.
It's already happened.
You've been appointed by the NDP to that. And now you say my first priority is going to go over to Victoria, tell them to cancel the approval from the World's Fair people and kill
And do
Transpo
you know what's
86.
already happened, Jack?
No.
Since May, when they had no housing there in the immediate future, to October, till this last week, we now have 0 housing to 20,000 housing units because I put up a fuss and so did a lot of other people. Sometimes you have to negotiate with a bit of passion and a bit of heat and a bit of conflict. and
Just
you get
before I
results.
go to Jack Volrich,
And we got results.
I want you to try to tell me again how a mayor of Vancouver can radically affect the critical housing shortage, which, you know, is a pest in
You
the whole of
can't.
Western Canada.
You can't. But
So
what you can do is you can have the willpower and the tenacity to do something about the housing problem for young families, for senior citizens, for handicapped people, and put as a high priority your time, your efforts, as I did last year. I was able to get the federal government to increase their housing allocation for Vancouver from 700 units to 2,100 units. By going back and talking to the minister, talking to his chief people, and putting an ironclad case before them. It's a question of what you want to spend your time on, going to banquets with a chain of office around your neck, or you want to fight for basic issues like transit, housing, award system.
No, just a minute. Mayor Volrich, he's raised a couple of points. He says that only...
First of all, I've never been to a banquet with my chain of office around my neck, Jack Webster.
I didn't
Let
suggest
me
that.
make that clear.
Yes, he did.
You just said
I just
that.
said, which do you prefer to do? I don't prefer to wear a chain of office to a
You
banquet.
made it quite clear that
All
you
right.
think he spends his time at banquets
All
with
right.
his chain of office.
All right, let's get down to the business of the
Hello.
meeting.
Yes.
I'll respond very quickly.
Yes, please.
First of all, housing. The idea of housing has always been part of the plan for BC Place right from the outset. We always said that, Jack. All of us who were
Until 1988.
associated with the concept, Alderman Harcourt is absolutely wrong in what he said.
Not true.
Housing was always part of the whole plan. Alvin Nerod and all the other officials at all times stated, as I did publicly, that there's going to be a substantial amount of housing which is going to be part of BC Place. And of course, one of the most important moves that have been made in this whole matter of housing, Jack, was the announcement last week about the acquisition of the property for BC Place, which includes provision for housing for 20,000 people on the north shore of Falls Creek, and that's going to do more to improve the housing situation than any other decision that's been made over the past 20, 30 or 50 years.
That's not going to be low rental housing, is it? That's going to be
Some of it.
expensive housing.
No, not at all. We are trying, as a basic city objective, to bring about a mix of housing on north side of Falls Creek, just as we've done it on the south side of Falls Creek. But Jack Webster, that depends very heavily on governmental programs, subsidy programs, which might enable you to bring about that mix.
In other words, it'll be year 2000 before BC Place is really a complete entity with all its frills and folderols.
It's going to be a 5-year to 10-year program before BC Place is entirely completed. But the housing part of it is probably going to start within the next 2 years.
Do I not make a good point, though, when I say that this was really thrust upon the city? Nerod and company will buy and pay for the services within this massive, whether it's 140 or 200 acres in BC Place. But the city of Vancouver is going to be loaded with great connections to the services in the government enclave. Is that not true?
No, that's not. There will undoubtedly have to be some changes in the road system and access routes and parking and that sort of thing, especially when you're talking about the redevelopment, Jack, of 200 acres of prime land in the north shore of Falls Creek.
Agreed.
Right now, the engineers and the experts are all working this out, but we do not have a price tag yet on what the total cost of the changes to the road system, sewers, water is going to be. And when we figure that out, then we'll sit down with the province and figure out just who is going to pay what. As far as the City of Vancouver is concerned, Jack, I've made it clear to the province, and they understand it, that the city cannot be faced with any large capital expenditures on this project, because we don't operate that way. We have to find the money in our annual operating budget.
You're taking my point that you are really at the knee of the provincial government, or what is done. All of you are at the knee of the provincial government.
No, we are partners of the provincial government, equal partners with them.
That's clear enough. Two short answers, please, to two short questions. Your opinion of Harcourt's destructive attitude to scrap Transpo 86.
I find it incredible that he's taking this position, because the fact is that Transpo is the means and catalyst by which so many of these other things are going to come about. Transpo is the catalyst and means by which the federal government is going to be participating in this overall project. Yes.
Do you give Harcourt the credit which he takes as being the man who last year, because of his drive, brought the number of planned units up from 700 to 2,100?
Absolutely wrong. It was my office that was mainly involved in the discussions.
Why don't you half the credit and agree?
Well, what I'm saying, Jack, is as follows. In May of 22nd...
Is he right? He was part of it, was he, or was he not?
Whatever. I'm saying that I put a lot of energy into it. He wrote a letter. I went back there. I talked to the minister. I have, as a matter of fact, provincially, I've suggested
You did your job as an alderman.
I worked my butt off to get housing built as I have.
You did your job as mayor, properly,
Right.
after the break. Start with Marty Zlotnick this time and go around that way and back to what might well be an embarrassed Jack Volrich. The ward system. T.E.A.M, you. What about it? 51% was enough to elect Reagan. Is it enough to have a ward system?
It certainly is, Jack, and I think that that decision was made in 1978 in the last election. It was then confirmed by the Governmental Review Commission, which, if you listen to Jack Volrich, was a total waste of money. So it seems to me now that this decision is going to be decided on Saturday. I would think that the voters have had enough of the large system, and they're going to vote for candidates who believe in the ward system. You're all for it? Teams all for the ward system.
Ingram by himself.
I believe it should be a referendum, and it should be decided by the people, and I would bring it back in. And here's the reason.
We had a referendum.
Jack, it costs too much.
Didn't we have a referendum?
Yes.
But it was very unsatisfactory.
It costs too much. It costs too much for a candidate to get elected in this Vancouver election. Right now, there are aldermanic candidates that are spending $10,000 and $20,000 of their own money to get elected, whereas a federal cabinet minister like John Fraser or Ron Huntington in the last election could only be allowed to spend at the most $12,000 to $15,000 of money that he raised, and the people that donated that money got 3/4 of it back as a tax credit.
You're saying you want a ward system?
I want a ward system and a limit on the election spending of people running for municipal office.
But you want another vote before there's a ward system?
No, I would put it in if the majority of council...
You said a referendum a minute ago.
I would like a referendum, and this election is a referendum. If you vote for David Ingram, you voted for a ward system. If you vote for Marty Zlotnick, you voted for a ward system. If you vote for Mike Harcourt,
that's enough.
you
don't
voted
have
for
to
a
name
ward
everybody
system.
in town. Mike Harcourt.
Jack, I've always favored a ward system, and that's not the point, whether we favor it or not. The fact is that the majority of people voted for a ward system in 1978. We made a pledge. The last council put ads in the paper saying, if you vote for it, we'll set up a committee to establish the boundaries. We'll go to Victoria. We'll change the Vancouver Charter. We'll have wards in 1980. That was kiwashed by Jack Volrich. He's accountable to the people. This election is a plebiscite.
Are you saying that Volrich double-crossed the electorate of Vancouver?
He not only double-crossed, he then spent $70,000 to add insult to injury by having Larry Eckhart on a stacked commission come and confuse the issue even further, and then totally ignored the recommendations of even that commission. So we spent a lot of money on the plebiscite, $70,000. I'm saying this election, if I'm elected, Jack, will be a reconfirmation of the desire of the people of Vancouver to bring a ward system.
Just by the way, if you are elected and you don't have a majority in council, you still will not be able to go to the government and ask them to change the charter.
We're going to have a mixed
no,
bag
if you
on
are
council.
elected and if the NPA has still dominated the council, hypothetically, you couldn't bring in a ward
I'm saying the
system.
people have already spoken. The people have already spoken for a word
If
system.
you are elected, and
let
if
me-
it's an NPA-dominated council, you still
Totally
couldn't bring it in.
hypothetical. Totally hypothetical, Jack.
Mr. Volrich.
And unlikely.
You seem to have
Well,
been...
to say that I've double-crossed anyone is a rather wild and a rather stupid statement to make. The fact is that I've been against a ward system at all times. I've made that perfectly clear. The public know that I am not in favor of a ward system. I've made it clear 1,001 times, 101 times, Jack Webster. And yet, the people of Vancouver have voted me in as their mayor on 2 occasions by very strong majorities. Thank you very much. Now let's look at this ward system business. 1973, we had a plebiscite, or referendum. The people of Vancouver voted against the ward system by a very strong margin at that time in 1973. 1978, we put another question to the voters. It was a very divided council at that time, by the way. The decision to go with the plebiscite was approved 6-5 by council. The wording was approved 6-5, a very unsatisfactory kind of a situation. But 51.7%, yes, they voted in favor of a ward system. But at the same time, Jack, 8 out of the 11 people elected to council, including myself, were people who made it clear to the public that we were against a ward system. So how do you read the situation? The way you read it is, in my opinion, is that the public is very uncertain about this business of the ward system, and therefore I've said, in order to clear the air, I'm prepared to recommend that we have a much clearer plebiscite in about 2 years' time. And the point I want to make here is this, and it's a basic distinction that we have to keep in mind, that certainly we change people by less than 50%. Sometimes a person is elected by 30%, by 40% of the total vote, depending on how many candidates, depending on the kind of election, Jack. But nowhere in the world do you change your system of government by something so marginal as 51.7%. That's simply not a clear mandate
position now
for a
is
change in the system of government.
There was a contradiction in the wishes of the voter as between the slim majority and the aldermen who are elected on specific positions.
And the
you
previous plebiscite.
And you are now saying that 2 years down the road you'll try and work out, if elected, a straightforward, simple question like, do you want a ward system, yes or no?
Oh, and also spelling it out what kind of a ward system we have in mind, Jack. You're
Okay,
giving them a
gentlemen.
little more information.
You're all happy with that answer, are you?
Well, that was
Not
the
at
question
all.
that was asked in the last
Not at
election.
all.
In '78, it was a simple question, yes or no. There was no confusion at all, and Jack was one of the people, along with other members of the NPA, who pushed for the simple answer. Simple question, and they got the simple answer, and the simple answer is the majority of the
that's
public
not correct.
wants the change.
Anyway, the vote now, even though we
Jack,
don't
let
have
me make a point. Would the real Jack Volrich please stand up? For the first 6 years of his political career, he supported a ward system. Now he
not.
supports an
Never.
at-large system.
No, that's absolutely
He
false.
did. He supported
when
a
you ran in
partial ward system.
1972.
Partial ward system is
That's
correct.
a ward system. And now he's
Partial
against
system
it, and he'll switch
is-
back in 4 years' time.
Partial system is not a full ward system. There's a big difference.
It's a ward system.
Partial system is where a
can't have it
number
both ways.
where a number of the council members are elected
Switched
at
his
large
mind on
and some are
stadiums.
elected.
All
Please.
right, let me make it quite clear for people who are interested. If you vote this time round for Volrich, you'll look at a ward system 2 years down the road, right?
Yes.
If you vote for Zlotnick, which you can't win anyway, can you?
Oh, I certainly can, Jack.
But if he were to win, he'd try and implement it now.
That's right.
So would you.
Absolutely.
That's Harcourt.
Absolutely, Jack.
So would you, David.
Yes, I would.
And so would you, Frank.
Definitely.
Jack, let's make this
That's 80%
point,
in
though,
favor.
and let's have this understanding that, you cannot, no one here can say they would implement a ward system.
Unless they have a majority of council.
No, Jack. The provincial government is in charge of Vancouver's charter.
Right.
The provincial government would have to make the change.
That's
Now, when these results came in, 51.7%, I transmitted those results to Victoria. The government made it quite clear that they do not regard 51.7% as any kind of a mandate to bring about any change in Vancouver's government. That's where the essential authority lies.
That's right, and we'll get
So-
the mandate from this election to bring in a ward system.
There's no
It's
problem
not
getting
just-
the provincial government to change this, Jack. We got
Sure.
them to change the site of the stadium. We'll get them to change the charter of Vancouver.
They're changing the face of Vancouver right now.
That's right.
Phones soon. Sunday shopping an issue here or not? Or
Yeah,
is it just
Sunday
in Saturday?
shopping, I'm
Is it?
on that.
Is it an issue or not?
It's been discussed.
It's not an issue in this election because we're not going to do anything about
Yeah,
it.
this city council didn't even bring in a
Okay,
referendum, which
okay.
means we start all over again on January the 1st. with
Sunday
keeping the
shopping,
stores open.
briefly on Sunday shopping, although I had Ari on about it, and then phones. I see shoppers' rights committees in Surrey are hammering for Sunday shopping. I know there's a great demand for it among the young couples nowadays who've lost the decent old way of the proper Sabbath. Can I have a short summary of your positions, please, on Sunday shopping for the City of Vancouver, starting with Frank?
As I appeared 3 times before the City Council, as Mr. Jack Volrich well knows, and I am in favour of a fair law for all, I would say definitely we should have Sunday shopping to save the merchants of the town paying high taxes.
Okay,
and
Sunday shopping. Martin Zlotnick.
Jack, T.E.A.M's position on Sunday shopping is that we should have a unified law throughout the province, at the very minimum a unified law on the Lower Mainland, so that one area of the Lower Mainland is not competing against another area on a specific day, and that's straightforward.
Michael Harcourt.
On this issue, Jack, Harry Hammer and I agree. A law right across the province. It's crazy to have a patchwork of different openings and closings. My personal opinion is that we've had 90 years of a healthy tradition of one day free of commerce, but if we're going to have a plebiscite on it, make it at least the Lower Mainland shopping area.
Oh, you're personally against it. I thought being one of the kind of liberated generation young...
I'm not. I grew up in a very strong, square home, and Sunday, I think, should be a day of free of commerce.
You'd rather they were closed.
Pardon me?
You'd rather the stores were closed on Sundays.
That's right. It's 90 years of tradition we've had in this country.
But
the
you're
Lord's Day
prepared
Act.
to open them.
Oh, listen, I'm a Democrat. If we have a plebiscite, the majority of people vote for it, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be like Jack on the ward system. The people have spoken.
You want all your tax offices open on Sundays anyway, don't
They
you?
can be open anyway, Jack, but let's take it this way. It is ludicrous that Vancouver City is the only city in the whole Lower Mainland that has a business tax, and we are charging merchants such as Harry Hammer business tax and then telling them that they have to be closed on Sunday. And this council was very irresponsible to not bring a referendum in, as Surrey had, because as of January the 1st, 1981, all these stores have to close again, and if Surrey passes their referendum, then people are going to be going out of town to shop. And people like Harry Hammer do 25% of their business on a Sunday. Why should they pay business tax to a city that won't let them stay open because they didn't give them a chance?
Give me that again if you're right, that even though Surrey might pass one now, they've got to close again in January?
No. Vancouver has to close in January because we haven't got a referendum to keep open.
Jack Volrich.
I can't help but wonder that if we went to a plebiscite and 51.7% of the people of Vancouver voted for completely open Sundays, all stores, all establishments to be open, I wonder if we would really make that change at 51.7%. However, I've always been in favor of some control and regulation of commercial activities on Sundays. Right now we do have a provincial law, but the problem is that each municipality has the opportunity of opting out of that law, if you know what I mean. In Vancouver, the main issues are going to be whether the city will want to exempt, let's say, Gastown and Chinatown from the provisions of the new legislation. And also a third issue is whether we'll want to allow the lumberlands to remain open. Now, these issues have not yet come before council. The council will have to take a position on them. If it wants to exempt those areas, and I think they can make a good case why they should not be covered by the law, Gastown and Chinatown being historically designated areas under provincial legislation, but that would have to be approved by the City Council and then also approved in a plebiscite by the people. That's the way the new law operates.
How can we start the whole thing again?
And then that becomes difficult. It's very unsatisfactory.
Let me get your position clear. You've taken no action this year under the new umbrella law which forces a municipality to decide its own hours. You've taken no action. But you're thinking, even if it were more than 51.7, the Gastown might be exempted. What was the other place? Chinatown might be exempted. That place underneath the bridge, I suppose. What's it called? Granville Island?
Granville Island. It's not really affected because right now a certain size of store is allowed to remain open. Yeah.
Martin Zlotnick.
Well, Jack, I think that you've just heard what Jack is quietly saying around town. It's been reported in the paper, but he hasn't had the guts to bring it forward in this election. If he really believes that, why are we going to go and spend extra money in the spring or whenever to have another referendum on this issue? He knows what the issue is. Why isn't it on the ballot this time like Surrey and other municipalities? It's a joke.
The matter could be covered by amendments to the legislation by the provincial government at the spring session of the legislature, which I've asked them to do.
Well, Jack, as I say, I think we've had 90 years of a good tradition free of commerce. I don't think people's basic civil liberties rest or fall whether they can buy an electric toothbrush on Sunday, as the people to the south seem to think. The people in this country are mostly from a European background and from a strong family life and church life background, and the trade unions want to have a day of rest. I think it's a good 90-year tradition, and we have to have a plebiscite before it should change, and it should be right across the province, not just one municipality after the other.
Okay, gentlemen, anything else you want to raise, I've omitted to raise before I go to
It's nothing to do with the families. It's a question of the merchants. We're taxing the merchants in Vancouver City, a business tax of 9% of their rent, their assessed rental. We're not doing it anywhere else in the Lower Mainland. How can you get somebody in Vancouver to pay a business tax when somebody across the bridge, across the boundary road, is able to stay open and compete with them?
Whose day of rest are we talking about?
And whose day of rest are we talking
Whose
about?
day of rest are we talking about? Mike's or the Jewish faith, which I belong to?
Well,
Which is it that we're talking about?
let me talk about the merchants.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday?
Jack, let's talk about the merchants. We've had
Saturday is a day of
representations.
rest for many people.
Jack, the merchants have come to us, big and small, and said, we don't want to have Sunday openings.
Not all of them. Lumberland,
The big ones don't want it, do they?
Drugs haven't.
The small merchants have come to us and said, don't open. The large department stores have come to us and said, don't open. That's the opinion of the business community.
I've had some real garbage out of Surrey in which people are saying, don't forget the poor college students. If they don't get their part-time jobs, they won't be able to go to college. Absolute double talk.
Yeah.
Specious nonsense.
It's a good tradition.
I gather the Sunday opening position and that Volrich and Harcourt aren't
Agree.
that far apart.
We agree.
That's right. I believe in the principle of one day of
You're
rest.
all for the
Believe me.
opening.
No.
All
I'm
we
not for
want
the
is
opening. What I'm
uniform
for
law.
is a uniform law.
Uniform
And in
law.
addition, I think it should be, if we go to having one day closed, have it like Ontario, where you choose the day.
What
and
you're
there's
all-
not Sunday or Saturday or
What
Monday
you're all
or Tuesday.
saying is the Social Credit government of Victoria had the guts enough that
They would have done the right thing in the
brought
first
a
instance.
decent,
Right.
understandable
But if
law.
the city of Vancouver had been pushing for it, it would have happened.
We did
Down with
push for it.
social credit.
Oh, we
We
have
did.
been pushing. You know,
We did push for it.
Alderman Harcourt and I agree on this.
Yeah,
We've
but
been
You
why-
pushed for it just like you
down
asked for
the
amendments
town
to the
open?
charter.
This is romper room school.
What does the job pay, Jack?
Which job?
Your job.
I think it's about $42,000
gonna make
past
double
year.
that
and,
next
year.
I hear the mayor of Toronto is now up to 65.
Oh, you want a raise?
Well, he gets
course
less
he
than the
does.
city manager.
Yes, I do, but I don't
He's
know if I'll
going to
get
get
it.
one, Jack.
Jack?
Who
he
was
gets-
making the noise about Jack having a policeman?
Me.
You're wrong, Frank. He's entitled to a policeman.
I know he's entitled to a policeman, but not a bodyguard.
Well, I don't know. The mayor of
We need an
Vancouver.
equal opportunities officer before we
Will
need a
you,
cop
will
driving
you
the
keep
mayor around.
the police driver if
Not
you...
as a chauffeur. No, I can drive my own car, but I'd have him up there as a liaison on community policing
That's all
and
he
some
does.
various
He is
programs.
That's all he does for
He's
you?
a city hall security officer. Maybe 5%, 10% of his time is in driving me to official
How can a
functions.
mayor of
believe me.
Vancouver have time to go down and park his car and go to things and go back and do his
Took a
work
taxi
again?
cab, you wouldn't have
Very,
to worry
very
about
difficult.
it.
I don't apologize to anyone for having a security officer at City Hall who sometimes drives me on official functions
Yeah, well,
and
how about-
duties.
I can get myself
Trade
around
union
and drive and
sits
park
around
quite
cars sitting in
satisfactorily.
front of their
Okay,
That's right,
gentlemen.
huh?
Time for one good long segment of telephone calls to the candidates for Mayor of Vancouver. I resist the temptation to do a poll. I'll take questions. Please, no good mornings, how are you, hello, the weather is nice. Just ask a question. Volrich so-and-so. What's your name again? Harcourt so-and-so, etc., etc. Go ahead, please.
Would the candidates please give their opinion of the Sea Festival, whether it should be continued?
Good. We'll start with the mayor.
I say yes, it should be continued, and we're trying to decentralize it and bring it under better control.
We'll go next to Zlotnick.
I think that's the right answer.
We'll go next to Harcourt.
No nighttime activities. It's the louts at night that are causing the problem. We've got to bring relief to the people in the West End. Sea Festival has become an aggravation for 40,000
And you want
people
these
in the
louts
West
to
End.
vote for you, nevertheless.
No, I don't. They're from Surrey and from
He
Delta.
only says that the drunken louts are from Surrey. I believe we should keep the Sea Festival. We have to have better controls and decentralize it.
Can I get a shot, Frank? Frank?
Decentralise it and stop the people from coming in waking the West Enders up.
Go ahead, please.
Yes. Jack, I'd like to ask Mayor Volrich why he is running in such a dictatorship fashion. Now, a democracy, I understand it, is over 50% of the vote is a democratic way of doing things, and I'm sick and tired of his excuses and reasonings of why he did not put on that
Hold on, please. The question to you, Mayor Volrich, is why do you behave like a dictator when 51.7% of the people voted for a world system?
Once again, because I and a large majority of members of council and the provincial government do not regard 51.7% as a sufficient mandate to change your system and structure of government.
Thank you.
We've already discussed this.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, I would like to know how much they're going to better the service for handicapped persons.
Handicapped services.
I've been trying to get a decent custom handicapped transit system going for a couple of years now. I think it's a disgrace that people are shut in and have to wait 14 days for handicapped service rides. Secondly, we need to build at least...
Just let's stop there for a second.
Right.
You're all in favor of motherhood, regardless of expense.
It's not regardless of expense.
Is there any
Jack.
money available for
Yes,
a handicapped service
Yes,
now?
there is.
Do we have a handicapped service now?
We do, but it's totally inadequate, and it has to go from 14 days or 10 days phoning ahead to get a ride to 24 hours at least.
A great deal of improvement has taken place in terms of services for handicapped. In the next year, a great deal more improvement will be taken. The Urban Transit Authority, of which I'm chairman, has increased the budget to improve handicapped services by about 40% this year. A further increase will be made in this coming year.
It won't be adequate, but it will be
40%
better.
of nothing's not much.
Yeah, have to
Go ahead,
substantially
please.
upgrade.
Yes, I have a question of to Mr. Volrich. And since he's... Hello?
Yes?
Since he is a lawyer, I would like an answer, yes or no. Straight, simple answer to a straight, simple question. If he and his partisan, non-partisan association members are elected by 1.7 or less % of the vote, will he recommend the resignation of all those elected by such a margin?
Good question.
Well, the fact is, I can only repeat what I said before.
The answer to that question is no.
The answer is no. People get sometimes elected by 30%, 40% of the total vote, depending on the number of candidates. That is just not a valid comparison.
Go
at
ahead,
all.
please.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mike Harcourt what his position is on the continued discrimination against Sunday horse racing at X Park.
Continued discrimination against Sunday...
Horse racing
What
at
does it mean
Exhibition
by-
Park.
Oh, you mean you want to have Sunday racing?
Yes,
Okay.
most people do.
Well, I'm not convinced that the people around the PNE want that, and that's one of the problems, Jack, is that the people at the PNE have been so burdened down by an overextended PNE that they can't even enjoy their Sundays because they got people parking in their lawns, they got people
Why are they
parking
all
in front of
standing
their house.
outside looking for money outside their houses saying $4, $3?
That's only a couple of them, but a lot of the people around there, a lot of people around there want to have the
You
same
are
thing that
against-
you have in your neighborhood, which is to enjoy a quiet
What about
Sunday in their
football
neighborhood.
games and hockey games and everything else that
Jack,
goes on?
you know, my
Want to stop
information...
Hold on, please.
My information is that 51.7% of the people around the PNE would support Sunday horse racing.
That's not bad.
But you want to know something? That's 51.7% of the people who have paved over their backyards for parking lots.
But don't tell me there are only 2 or 3 standing out there looking for money.
No, I didn't
That's
say
why
that.
they go down
What I'm
to
saying
the
is that
horse
what I'm
racing.
saying is that until we take care of the aggravation that the PNE is causing the 40,000 people around that area, I don't want any extensions of the PNE.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd like to ask Mayor Volrich, how come we have to have 275 engineers on the city payroll?
275 engineers?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just can't possibly answer that question for you.
I can
I
answer
don't
that.
think that we have 275 engineers. We have a large engineering department. A lot of them are not trained and professional engineers.
Well, you've raised an important point. Do you know if they have 275 engineers?
We have approximately that many in technicians, but it's a big city, Jack. We've got thousands of miles of sewer and water and streets and sidewalks. We've got a 430,000
Okay, I know
people
that.
pick
Let
up
me ask
garbage
you a question.
for. It's a darn good engineering
Do you
department.
gentlemen now have the complete 4-day week at the City Hall?
No,
Not all the staff, but generally that is the rule at City Hall
Just
at the present
inside.
time.
How many complaints are you getting about the fact that you can't get people together for meetings because they're taking their 5th day off?
Yes, I am getting
All the time.
complaints about that, Jack. That's right, and that
It's
they
a
can't
bad
get through to
system.
the right official. And sometimes I myself, when I want to get through a certain official, he or she is not there. It doesn't often happen, to be perfectly fair
Was
about
it a bad
but
idea?
there are some
no.
complaints.
It's a good idea, and we've modified it where there are complaints.
Was it a good idea, the 4-day week?
I was not in favor of it. but it's there now, and I don't propose to change it.
Voted it down.
It gives extended service to people, Jack. Instead of 9 to 5, it's 8:30 to 5:30, so people can come before and after work. It does. It
Jack,
does.
the problem with it is if you're going to have a 4-day week, which I actually agree with, okay, the problem is you've got to change the management structure so that people can have somebody to deal with on a permanent basis rather than being
We've
shuffled
changed the
around.
management structure.
And the management structure needs to be improved. It's getting better, but it needs to be
The
improved.
management aren't on a 4-day week.
Okay, I've got it.
Management aren't.
Oh, I'm on the phone.
that's not the
Go ahead, please.
Mike Harcourt.
Yes, sir.
For the stadium, having talked to Dave Podmore, who is the planner for BC Place, he
Right.
states to me that there is going to be no massive car parking down there. Do you agree with that, which I do? And people must come there on mass transit only.
Well, I agree that we have to have the Surrey to Vancouver LRT going a block away, and we have to acquire 400 new buses to move people around the Lower Mainland, particularly to that area. But
no
you have to
massive
realize
car parking down
you have-
BC Place for the stadium.
you have to realize that there are around 40,000 parking places within a 6 or 7 square block radius of that site. I disagree with them. I think we should have a 2,000 or 3,000 car parking lot there that can be used the rest of the day as a park and ride and to facilitate the downtown. So I
Mayor
disagree with that
Volrich?
planner.
On this issue, we have to have parking in and about the stadium site, no question about it. Seattle gets by with about 2,000, something like over 2,000 spaces. We have to have parking, a few thousand cars, no question about that.
Martin Zlotnick.
As I understand, talking to those people at BC Place, they're going to have 3,000 parking spaces on site.
David Ingram.
Have to have the 3,000 parking spaces.
Frank Helden.
7,000.
7,000, you say.
Like,
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Right, Jack?
Yep. Come on.
Oh, I'm looking at the TV. The voice isn't going there. Okay, as far as they're concerned, they're supposed to be elected representatives of the people. As far as we're concerned, talking for the people, or the people I know, they're not doing the proper job, you know? Like, you take a look at the mass transit system. You ask a guy, any guy in the rush hour, you know, he's sweating to get home at night, and he's sweating to get to work in the morning. I mean, you know, something's got to be done about it.
Yeah, well, something's going to be done about it. This is the problem, of course. I've been in Vancouver for 30-odd years, and I've watched the deterioration of the old streetcar system.
And interurbans.
And I've seen the politicians in Victoria and Ottawa make promises and fail to fulfill. Are you people, in fact, powerless to do anything?
No, we're
quickly
not.
about
We're
it?
not.
No, but
It's just a question of commitments, Jack.
That's right. But let's also face this fact that it hasn't been, except in the last 2 years, that there's been a financing mechanism in place, Jack, that would allow us to go ahead with something like a rapid transit system. When the Urban Transit Authority was set up a couple of years ago, it provided a cost-sharing formula as
we've got
between
it.
the province and the municipalities, which will cover rapid transit. And that's the first time that any kind of financing formula was developed which allows us to go
As
ahead.
I was saying earlier, before you say anything, David, Van der Tam comes in here, all you people are working, doing this, that, and the next thing, you've got your surveys, your fancy trips east and the rest of it, you go to Europe to see system, and Van der Tam says, I will decide what the system will be.
Well, that's arrogance of the worst order. And the fact is, the city of Edmonton got its system going because it just went ahead and did it. It then got provincial
We
government
can't
to
go
come
ahead
in.
and do it without the money.
We can go ahead and acquire the LRT
Well-
right of way. We can get our engineers starting to prepare the documents to tender and start building. We don't have to study. We don't have to be bullied
More
by Bill
importantly,
Van
Jack, we can go to
It's a
Victoria
question of
and tell them it's
getting
our
on.
number one
Are
priority.
you all agreed
All
on
right.
what should be done? Are you and
Build
Harcourt
it.
agreed on
Stop
that?
studying.
We're
He
agreed
wants
on
to
going
study. I
ahead
want to
with it.
build.
That's right.
Let's get
Jack,
going.
more than that, we can get the CPR to start running their trains in again like they do in Toronto and Montreal and Boston and all other cities in major
I wouldn't
cities in
count on
North
that.
America.
Gentlemen,
Sure
I'm
they
not,
can. The
not
cars
going to
are
run
there.
my little poll. I think the program has added some colour and interest and perhaps a little bit of life to the
Nobody is-
doings. Frank Helden, best of luck.
thank you.
Mike Harcourt, best of luck.
Thank you, Jack.
David Ingram,
He's not
best of
going to
luck.
give me any luck. He wants to win his bottle of scotch.
Martin Zlotnick, best of luck. Mayor Volrich, best of luck. Webster, after the break. I've got no right to enter the fray in this next topic whatsoever, but I will do, because occasionally I go and do the shopping at SuperValue in Park Royal, and I always have a little bash with the girl about the scanner. I can't see it, I can't read it, it's going too fast. Why did that give 3 pings? So I sent Anton out to a Canada Safeway, to have a look at what the girl tells them as to how the scanner works. Most of you know. It's not in all stores everywhere. But I think Anton and the girl from Safeway here give you a fairly lucid explanation of what the new scanners do for the stores and for you.
Because they don't have lines, I have a number which represents this. The number for your radish is 39. So I key in 39 and enter it. I tell it it's not weighable. Same with your lettuce. It's a non-weighable item. So I key in the code and enter it again.
What if it was something that you could weigh?
Okay, I key in the number, I put it on the scale, and your weight in pounds comes up on this display here. I push the weight key and I enter it again.
So it weighs it, and then tells me how much it weighed and computes the whole thing?
Exactly. And everything you see on this display is coming up on this receipt here.
So I can watch there, I can watch there.
And you can double check it on your receipt. $1, they scan at $1 each. It automatically rings up a 20-cent deposit on your bottle. So they're 81 with a 20-cent deposit makes it $1.
Automatically put in.
It's automatic.
Okay, and the baggies here, I've got a coupon for.
Okay. I'd scan the baggies and I take your coupon and I tell it that I have a manufacturer's coupon of 25 cents and it automatically deducts it from your total. Once again, you can just see it on the display.
When you're operating this, you just drag the things across there?
These lines here are what the display reads. There's a light beam in there that reads distance between the bars. Now these lines here aren't the price. What they are exactly is describing the product, like that it's Campbell's soup and that it's tomato, and it reads the distance between these lights, leaves here, goes up to our main controller upstairs, files to the system till it finds these numbers, where we've affixed a price. So therefore, if we put this can on sale for 5 cents, when we scan it, it would find the price in our system and come back at 5 cents.
Or otherwise it would just give us the price of whatever it costs, right? What happens if does that get scratched or dirty or something with it?
Yeah, depending on the grill that's using it, it gets scratched and it gets changed about every 2 weeks. It's just glass.
So now, when you put them through, the one other question I have is, how do you, sometimes I see products go through a couple of times. So how do I know I'm not going to get charged twice for that?
Okay, well, there's 2 ways of telling. One, the machine goes beep. Okay.
So you're listening for a beep?
I'm listening for a beep, and also I'll see it ring again on the display. I hear this click again, and this light here will come on red if it didn't go.
Right. So that tells you that it's gone through, and if I see you say go through a second time, that means that you didn't hear those. And
yeah, see, if I was to take the can and just go like this.
The wrong way.
The wrong way, without the lines to it, it won't go.
So you've got to remember.
I could do it 6 times.
Does it matter what way you turn it or anything like that?
No, so long as these lines go across the screen.
Right, right. Okay, so I can still get some money here for my groceries.
$11.22, please.
Okay, there we go. Doesn't go very far these days, does it?
No, it sure doesn't.
I suppose people of my generation were against the, what was it they called it? The spinning jenny, when they invented it in the cotton mills in Lancashire. And I suppose people like myself and a number of other people just are afraid of automation. Here with me this morning is Georgina Bullen, Public Affairs Director of the Canada Safeway, and Terry Davis. Davis or Davies?
Dawes.
Dawes. I wrote that out, you see. Who's also from Canada Safeway. Now, is my reaction an unusual reaction in that when I see these very efficient girls slap the stuff through and I see it on the screen and I see it in my receipt, I still think, my God, she's going too quick. Where are my glasses? I can't read it. How much of a bad reaction do you get to scanners?
Well, okay, let's, first of all, I don't think your reaction is bad. I think it's one of slight confusion, and I think it's quite common for people of your age. Well, I do think that there are customers in supermarkets who are confused with the new system, but the system is explainable, and we think it's just the best system that's come along in a long time.
Well, obviously, it's a good merchandising operation for you. How much does it reduce the labor in the store, this kind of computerized operation?
Obviously, with the no price marking, it has reduced our labor as far as putting the price on the product. But what we have found that has helped us in a lot is that we've take those hours saving and redistribute it in areas that we were weak in. You can imagine with the statistics that come out of a computer that we know hour by hour how many dollars we're taking through our registers. And if we had weaknesses of help on hand in the front end, which we call it, we could take those hours and redisperse them in. Also involved in the prices are off, but there's many functions that have to take place to operate the computer, and these hours are distributed throughout the store. There hasn't been a seemingly big reduction in labor in our stores because of it. We've redispersed it throughout the store.
You haven't been able to cut staff?
We have not cut staff.
Well, now, let me get down to Casey's, though. And I've had consumers people on and whatnot and all about it. That computer code on the can, that tells or records somewhere the stock, the removal from stock, the need for stock if necessary. It tells the price, right?
No, the price is not in the UPC code.
But when she brings it across and it goes beep, and it rings up 70 cents, something tells the price.
Yes, that has been programmed into the computer, that price.
Now, is that price changed on a daily basis? Supposing you've got old stock and new stock on a counter, what guarantee have I got that I'm not paying the new price for old stock, which has already been on the counter for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days a week?
Okay. Safeway does have a system that identifies that old stock. We have a spot on the shelf ticket that tells you it's old stock, and the price is the old stock price, and it goes through the computer. Terry, perhaps you can say, does she ring it in, or does it come in on the...
Yes, we've had a change of policy, Jack, and we are a consumer-oriented company. We listen to all functions of what people want, and one of the criticisms has been that we have had prices off, and the prices advance or decline, they instantly happen. To counteract that reaction, we are now marking the price that it originally was when the price advances. So the cashier, when they come to the check stand, the product will not scan. There's a seal across the UPC codes, the lines that you described. And then the cashier will key in the numbers that are on there, which will give the customer the description of what she purchased, but she will ring in the price that is lower than the new average price.
Matter of fact, I saw that. Anton had another demonstration which we should have shown you. You have changed your method of practice now, and is it correct that you are now ticketing at the bottom of the UPC marking the price?
That's right.
So if it's old stock, you're protecting the public by going round against your original plan and putting on $1.25 when this might be $1.39.
That is correct.
So when the girl comes to scan it, because of that $1.25 old-fashioned ticket, it won't scan.
It will not scan.
So she punches in the old price.
She punches in the numbers that are listed under the lines, which tells the customer what she purchased. Our key to scanning is the description on the detail tape. The description of the product is on the detail tape. We're not taking that away from the consumer. She still has her detail tape, but she is getting the advantage of the lower stock.
Right now. And when I go to SuperValue, I get my full little, what's the word? Bill.
Cash register tape.
Cash register tape, and it tells me T425, whatever it is. Do your tapes tell the same thing?
Yes, they do.
You don't use codes?
No.
Only where we use codes is in our produce department, which is bulk purchasing. And when the cashier, as they described on the tape that you had, the cashier will put it on the scale, and it'll automatically, by a code, example bananas is code 45. And when she puts that on the scale, it'll compute instantly at 1/100th of a pound what she has purchased, but it'll say bananas. And it'll tell the customer how many pounds, how many ounces, and the price.
How many Safeway stores now have scanners?
4.
When do you plan to have them all equipped with scanners?
There are no plans to convert any other Safeway stores.
Why not?
Well, I think that...
Is it because of public resistance or because of the expense?
2.5 years ago, I've been in the scanning store for 2.5 years, Jack, and our object at the time we started was to be a test. We are testing a market in British Columbia. We have 4 stores now, one in Langley, one in Delta, one on Broadway in Kingsway in Vancouver, and mine in North Vancouver. And our object is to test it out, to listen to what the consumer wants. What are their needs? And we've reacted to many things. One of the points that they were reacting to previously was the ticket could be moved very easily. We have come up now with a plastic molding that goes over the price, so these tickets cannot be moved.
You're talking about the shelf tickets?
Shelf tickets.
Because that's one that gets me, and I have a little wrinkle that somebody was telling me about the other day. and I'm going to take calls now on scanners. We haven't got that much time, but who am I to pretend to be any kind of an expert in shopping? Calls on scanners to Georgina Bolin of Safeway and to Terry Dawes of Safeway. After the break, scanners, scanners, scanners. Call to Georgina or to Terry about scanners. Safeway, go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't like scanners. I've been shopping at Safeway for 20 years, and I take my mother each time, so she also shops. And if you put a scanner into my Safeway, I'm changing my habits. I'm just not putting up with it 'cause I don't like them. The screens get dirty, and they do ring up a wrong price. And you feel totally ineffectual. You feel like a minuscule little mouse standing there, not knowing what's going on, and I'm just not going to have it. I can spend my money.
How old are you? How old are you? How old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
45.
You're not that old.
Doesn't make any difference how old you are.
You have a store in North Vancouver.
Yes.
Which store is it?
13th and Lonsdale.
The big one?
Yes.
13th and Lonsdale. Do you get much of this kind of reaction?
We appreciate customers pointing these things out to us. I've been in the scanners now for 2.5 years, and there are people that come up and discuss it with us.
Have you ever known it to punch up a wrong number?
We have known in the beginning that the manufacturer, in some cases, there was, and it has been in the press, that the label was put on wrong. We have a system in effect, though, in our stores that we double-check all our ads, all our merchandising, with people doing that specific job.
Hey, ma'am, that's your view. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I suggest that it's just a method of stock control and pricing. For instance, if...
Well, it is a method of stock control, isn't it, Georgina?
Yes, but if the stock keeps turning over at the required number, they just keep increasing the price.
Is that true?
No.
No, not true. Go ahead, please.
Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to say that I approve of scanners in principle, and I feel that they're definitely the wave of the future. The only criticism I might have for the stores is that they should keep those plates cleaner and change them more often so that the customer wouldn't feel that perhaps the machine is blind to a problem that might crop up. That's the only thing I have to criticize
Is
with
that
them.
the
I
glass
think they're
plate
definitely
that-
labor-saving devices, and that there's no question that there'll be thousands more in the future.
Yeah. This is an interesting point, and we have been working on that, as the industry has been for a number of years. The plate has to be replaced about every 10 days. It becomes scratched. They're looking for someone to invent something that will not scratch, and when that happens, somebody's going to be a very wealthy person.
Go ahead, please.
Hello. We live in Langley, like my wife and I, and we won't shop in the Safeway there or the Super Value because of their scanners. And as far as I'm concerned, they're just lousy because there's no way I can remember all the prices by the time I get to the checkout counter.
All right. Has this changed the pattern of your customers in terms of... We had one woman whom we didn't show on television who took a grease pencil with her and marked everything.
Yes. We have offered to the consumer the grease pencils at the front of the store. But what we're asking for you, sir, is to come in and shop the store, shop your family order once, then criticize if there is criticism.
We went in there originally in the Langley Safeway.
Yeah. Well, have you discussed it with the store manager to explain?
Go out of our way to go to the Clearbrook Safeway instead, if we're going to do Safeway shopping.
We realize that there are people that have not been used to the system, and but with the detail tape that we have and the stock control and the advantage to the consumer, we feel that it's the way to go.
Does it really cut prices or just prevent them not getting up so much?
Well, what's going to happen, Jack, is that we are a test. You can imagine if this system continues and we have more stores on it, someday it's going to come to the point that we'll be able to have an advantage to hold the prices.
From Victoria, go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Webster, I phoned a while ago. I work in a major food store over here, and I find that the scanner system, we don't have the scanner system here, but I do find that the object of giving someone a grease pencil to mark the prices is in effect taking the job away from the person who could be marking the prices. And also the fact is, yesterday, the store that I work in, when these machines go offline, which is a term for a minor breakdown, all the memory in the world isn't going to help you because you have to remember all your produce prices anyway. This is for the cashier.
We're not talking about the Safeway system. I really can't address that
That's
question.
not
I'm
the
sorry.
Safeway system.
No, I'm sorry.
Can your system not break down and lose its memory?
I don't, it doesn't break down and lose its memory. I think maybe Terry can tell you if it's
We have
happened at all.
a backup system, Jack, that is run by the natural gas, and it is a generator that will go on instantly that we have a power breakdown. It will not lose its memory. It also is our controller, is controlled by our head office, and they also have a backup. Every store has a backup. Every store has an extra memory to run the store.
Are all the prices the same in every store?
All the prices in the Lower Mainland are the same price set up by our division office in Vancouver. Now, when prices advance, who's to say that somebody has more stock on the shelf than the other? That's the only difference there ever could be. But there could not be any difference as far as the shelf ticket is described. That price is the same in every store in the Lower Mainland.
Thank you. Back with the Safeway people, Georgina Bullen and Terry Dawes after the break. Safeway are using scanners in 4 of the stores in the Lower Mainland. North Van, Langley.
Delta and Broadway and Kingsway.
And it's still just in the neighborhood of a market test, you might say.
Yes, we're in 4 distinct areas of the Lower Mainland.
Good. Go ahead, please.
Yes, just a couple of things irk me about those scanners. First of all, I have found in a lot of the stores, the one in North Vancouver, the prices are not on the shelves, which makes it very difficult to do.
All right, now let's take up this question of the prices in the shelves. One of the complaints made to me in the program was that in some stores, or somebody's store, you won't have the same kind of items together. That you'll split one brand of an item with another brand of an item, and also that the little tags sometimes move along and you can't quite see what the shelf price really is.
Yes, that was a criticism that was at the beginning, Jack, and we've reacted to that by putting plastic moldings over top of the price in every one of our tickets, and they are there. We can't move them unless you have an instrument. Remembering, too, that I'm interested in that man's comment. It is not apparently known to us that any prices are missing off the shelf.
Well, that was the store on Lonsdale.
Yeah, well, that's my store, and I'm thank you for the comment. And if any time that this does happen, and maybe there is occasion where something will come off, we will be glad to take that criticism and correct the problem immediately.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, Jack. I work for a store here in Nanaimo, and...
It's not a Safeway.
No, it's a Federated Cooperative store.
Okay, do you use these kind of things?
We will be going into them early in 1981.
Right.
And to take a lot of doubt out of the customers' minds, what we have always done, customers have always marked the price on their own groceries.
You're in a cooperative store?
Yes. And what we do is we case cut all our product, and we put the price in the bottom right-hand corner, right on the shelf.
On the case?
Yes, that's correct. And when we
like
go into the scanning, we will continue to do this, so to take the doubt out of the customers.
Good, thank you, sir. Go ahead, please. Where are you? Hello, Gladys. Nobody there, Gladys. Go ahead, please.
I would like to find out about the how much energy. Hello?
How much energy the computers use, the scanners use?
Yeah, that's right. And
I would imagine
if they use a lot more than the regular cash registers, and if the items themselves can't be programmed onto the computer beforehand, so you can just punch in the.
Do you understand his question?
Mm-hmm. The light beam that comes up through the computer to scan the prices uses 1/100,000th of a watt to operate.
It's hardly a heavy energy use, is it?
No.
Go ahead from Kelowna.
Good morning. I just want to find out how I'm protected against buying new and old stock at the same price through your computer.
Yeah, give me that again, though. How am I protected from buying old stock at today's price?
The store brings in new stock at a new price, and the new price is computed into the program. How do I know if I'm buying old stock or new stock?
Yes, sir. On the policy in our Safeway stores now is that your product on the shelf, as the price advances, will be the UPC label, which is your lines on the packaging, will be blotted out or ticketed over. The price that was the price before the advance will be marked on that UPC label, then the cashier will take that and give you that price. If it wasn't old stock, it'll be scanning at the new higher price, which will be in the back of the product that's on the shelf.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd like to say that I am in favor of scanners. The problem seems to be, comparing the States with here, that the people buying things can't see what the prices are. Is there any way of moving the tape so that the person buying can see it while it's going through?
Oh, while it's going through.
Yeah. We have in our computer stores at right angles to the consumer the display which prints the price right on the display. Now we are working all the times with our people to improve our detail tape, and that is being done. We want to put more alpha description on it, and we've improved it immensely, but we're still working on that area of it.
But the key to the person like myself, as Georgina said, if you're getting a little bit older, is when I go through there, I've got to have my glasses ready, I leave my bundle there, I let somebody else bring it forward, and I watch it going through this way, right?
You have to read it.
And then I can check it at home. My thanks to Georgina Bullen of Safeway and to Terry Dawes from Safeway 13th and Lonsdale in North Vancouver.
Thank you.
I'll be back after the break. Tomorrow morning. We've got something else tomorrow morning.
We've got the weather ship, Nicole Parton, Mr. Outerbridge.
Pro board?
Yeah.
What about that other story I was doing? We're on the air.
We're on the air.
We're in a state of flux. But not to worry about it. That was quite good this morning. I quite enjoyed it. Georgina used to be a copy girl in the Sun with me many years ago. 9 a.m. precisely.